Yo, yo, yo. What's good, y'all? Welcome to Loreverse Live, man. I'm so happy to be here today. Yo, y'all see my new dicer though, bro? Hold on, this one might look crazy, but yo, I've been looking like homeless the past, you know what I'm saying, couple weeks, but we look good today, man. We look good today. We look good today. So we are about to get active today on Loreverse Live. We got a few topics that we're going to cover. I know Peacemaker does come out in the next hour, so I'm definitely going to tune into that tonight. But we're obviously going to talk about that, talk about what's going on with that, and get into all that. But hope you guys have had a great day. Please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you know when we post, because we are about to get into all this today. So we're going to get into some Spider-Man Brand New Day stuff off the bat here, because Spider-Man Brand New Day, a bunch of news has been coming out, but the other day, I think it was either yesterday or today, a bunch of cast news came out. So we're going to read about this. The first person that is rumored slash leaked to be in Spider-Man Brand New Day is Yelena Belova. So let's get into it. It says this: while it hasn't been officially confirmed by Marvel Studios or Sony Pictures, recent credible rumors from industry insiders like Daniel RBK strongly suggest that Florence Pugh will reprise her role as Yelena Belova in the upcoming MCU film Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, Florence Pugh, if you don't know, she previously, portrayed Yelena Belova, Natasha Romanoff's sister, and you guys should know about, where she's at right now. She's in the new Avengers now, one of the leaders of the team, and she's going to be in obviously Avengers Doomsday. Now, her inclusion right in this movie possibly is going to potentially bridge the storylines between Thunderbolts and Brand New Day in the larger multiversal arc that is leading towards Avengers Doomsday, where she is expected to play a really large role. Okay, so now some people do think that Yelena's role could be more impactful than a simple cameo in Spider-Man 4. Possibly, even offering guidance to Peter Parker as he's trying to rebuild his life after the events of Spider-Man No Way Home. And some other people think that this could be a possible post-credit scene where we could see Yelena attempting to recruit Peter Parker for the new Avengers. And this will, obviously link to his involvement in the Avengers Doomsday movie. Now, next thing here, the next actor is, oh my gosh, this guy, Tremel Tillman. Okay, so actor Tremel Tillman, he's known for his work in Severance and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. He has also officially joined the cast of Spider-Man Brand New Day. His casting was confirmed by Variety yesterday on August 20th, 2025. Now, however, the specific role that Tillman will be playing in the film is currently being kept under wraps by Marvel Studios, which is typical for most major MCU projects. Now, despite the secrecy surrounding this character, his involvement does add excitement surrounding this movie, which this movie is set to follow the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, where Peter Parker's identity was erased from the world's memory. And so yeah, he's joining the returning cast and all of that stuff. Wow, his role does remain a mystery. No one has said what his role is. His talent and presence is going to be felt in the MCU. Now, let me tell you guys some of my thoughts here. Now, I do believe that these were castings that were already confirmed. They did not just want to announce it. A lot of people think that, like, I am not the believer of, like, when they're on these Marvel sets, they're casting people and they're making all of these decisions. I do think a lot of these decisions are made kind of behind the scenes. We just don't know until they are able to become public. That's at least my viewpoint of how they do a lot of the a lot of the cast here. Now, I thought that Sam Wilson was going to be the one to ask Spider-Man to join the Avengers, and I thought that he was going to be the cameo, and I thought that it would make sense because at the end of Thunderbolts, aka New Avengers, Sam was getting trademarks, I think, for the Avengers, and it being Yelena is kind of crazy, but if you think about it from a practical standpoint, right, the New Avengers, aka the Thunderbolts, they are already in New York, so it would make sense for her to be the one to reach out to Peter Parker while he's in New York. He's one of the biggest heroes in New York, so it would make more sense for Yelena and Peter Parker to have some type of camaraderie. And look, maybe even he declines joining the freaking new Avengers team, and maybe he does end up joining Sam. I'm not necessarily sure. Now, also with Tillman, okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. I thought he was going to be casted as Kane the Conqueror because that was a big rumor going out. And I don't know if we are still on that wave of showing Kang. Some are saying that Tillman is possibly going to be Norman Osborn. But who really knows? He could be the Kang recast. I think a Kang recast would be dope. And we get to see Doctor Doom take him out. That'd be cool. And that would be insane and different. And no, I don't think a lot of people would see that coming still. But I don't know who he could possibly play. If he is Kang, I would never doubt a league again, though. If he was Kang, that would be insane. But I'm not gonna try to go and confirm it and say that that is true. But yeah, the fact that he's in this movie is gonna be crazy. I couldn't see him as Norman Osborn though. I really couldn't. Some people said that he's Tombstone. I mean, is Tombstone really gonna be a big bad for Spider-Man Brand New Day? I don't really think so. So I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on with Sadie Sink possibly being a multiversal character and all this stuff. No one really knows what's going on with Spider-Man Brand New Day. And until we get an actual trailer where we can see this stuff, it's just going to be a bunch of theories and speculation and yap, unless if the trades confirm it, like the Hollywood trades confirm this Tillman casting, which I think is a great casting. So yeah, I like everything so far with Spider-Man Brand New Day. I love Yelena Belova being in this. I'm a big Yelena guy, and if Sam Wilson, right, was going to be the one to recruit Peter Parker, right, but he doesn't, this also opens, the question of like, are they losing faith in Sam Wilson now? Or is it what I said? Yelena's already in New York, so it makes sense. Or will they both pop up? Those are just some questions that I have, but I think, this is very interesting stuff. And I am just super excited, to see what they're going to do here. All right. Next thing here, I want to talk about Peacemaker. Peacemaker. Okay. So with Peacemaker season 2 comes out within the next hour. And with me personally, I'm gonna tell you my personal opinion with Peacemaker. I'm not the biggest Peacemaker fan. Never have been. And like when it comes to the DCU, um, and characters a lot like this, these characters have a hard time landing with me. I don't think it's because Peacemaker is such a brash character and he's funny. Like I think he's funny and cool, but like with the DCU, I care about the more important characters, like Superman, Batman, etc. And Peacemaker was a really good show. And bro, you're right. Peacemaker is a really good show. So with season 2, excuse me. So with season 2, I am expecting them to kick it up a notch. And the Rotten Tomatoes, I'm pretty sure Rotten Tomatoes premiered at 100%, which is a really big deal for Rotten Tomatoes nowadays. So I'm really excited about that. But Peacemaker is going to be super awesome. I really can't wait for that. And James Gunn said that one of the reasons why Superman went digital, and some people think that he's lying or not. I'm not in that. I'm not going to be arguing about whether someone's lying. Like, come on. But one of the things that he said was that he released Superman because he wanted to watch Superman before Peacemaker. So I do want to see the possible connections. And for me personally, that's what I expect. Is I want to see the DCU landscape in the world being built more. And I want to see how, Peacemaker connects to the greater DCU, because that's one of the biggest reasons for this show. Or why it's so important, because it's going to show us a lot about the DCU that we are going to see, and that this is going to open us up to a whole new world and a whole new type of crap. I mean, we saw in the trailer that Guy Gardner and Hawker are also going to pop up in this season as well. So I am excited to see what they're going to do with Peacemaker. And as I said, I don't expect this to be a life-changing show. Like, I don't think Peacemaker is. I don't even necessarily think he was meant to be a life-changing show or a life-changing character. But what I do expect is to see a lot of DCU world building. And I think we're going to get that in this show. And look, as I said, I'm going to try to watch this as much as I can. I love James Gunn's work in general, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be very interested in what's going on. But we'll just have to see how it folds out and how it goes. But I have a lot of faith in this show and James Gunn, because James Gunn has really never made he's never really made stuff that I didn't like. You know what I mean? Like, James Gunn is a very brash director when it comes to Peacemaker. He's never held back. So I am excited to see what's happening here, and how are they going to do like where he finds his way to the DCU from the DCEU? Are they going to include that, or is it just going to be like Peacemaker is in the DCU now? Because like when he just popped up as Superman, he was there. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if they're going to show that. And from the trailer, it looked like he was walking through like multiversal doors, like into the DCU, and I think that would be cool to see. You know what I'm saying? But what does have to see what happens? Like, I'm excited though. I can't wait to see it. So yeah. Yeah, within the next hour, I'm going to check that out, and we're going to cover that next week, and and see how Peacemaker is. Okay, now next thing here, James Gunn talked about the DCU. He talked about some developing projects that they have going on. So let's talk about this, right? James Gunn says that multiple projects for the DCU are developing really well at the moment. These projects that we're talking about was Batman, Brave and the Bold, Wonder Woman, Booster Gold, and Paradise Lost. So we're gonna TLDR all of these movies and everything that we know about it so far. So with Batman, Brave and the Bold first, obviously, come on, it's Batman. This film will introduce a new version of Batman to the DCU and focus on his relationship with his son Damian Wayne, who will appear as Robin. Andy Muschietti, who directed The Flash, is attached to direct the movie. It's a part of DC Studios Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. Robert Pattinson will not reprise his role as Batman. His version remains in a separate Elseworld storyline. James Gunn has indicated close involvement with this project, noting a screenwriter is hammering away at it. There is speculation surrounding the writer for the project. We don't necessarily know who that is yet. Let's talk about Wonder Woman. A new Wonder Woman movie is officially in development as well and is being written right now, and that's from Games Radar. It is separate from the previously announced Paradise Lost series. This project is being fast tracked and has hired Anna Noguera. I think that's her name. And she was actually the screenwriter for Supergirl, which was super cool. And that was actually reported by Variety. Now, James Gunn has expressed that they prioritize getting the script right and that the new iteration of the character could fix any negative perceptions from the previous movies. And there has been no casting information available in this moment. So if you see any casting stuff, it's all rumored. It's not confirmed whatsoever. Now, Booster Gold, another TV series that is in development. Okay, so Booster Gold series is in development at HBO Max with David Jenkins reportedly set to write the pilot. Booster Gold is a character from the 25th century who comes back in time and he uses future technology to become a celebrity superhero. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys, this project has seen a lot of ups and downs, including losing a potential showrunner earlier this year, and reports do talk about, that the show might begin filming this year. We just don't know what's going on. And that was from that was from IMDb. So I'm not necessarily sure what's going on there. And I'm pretty sure the guy from the Eternals, I forget his name, he was rumored to be Booster Gold. I'm not a big fan of the dude's acting, to be real with you, but it's whatever. And then the last project in development is Paradise Lost, the HBO Max series. This is a prequel to Wonder Woman, exploring the origins of the mascara and the political struggles of the Amazons before Diana's birth. And James Gunn, he has talked about this project as kind of a slow moving, but it's moving, and they draw a lot of inspiration from the Paradise Island Lost comic storyline. Now, there's no official word on the creative team or the casting yet, and it is confirmed to be in active development, but hasn't received the full green light for production work yet. And look, it does remain unclear whether Gal Gadot will be involved in the series, but I doubt that this is going to be a Gal Gadot involved project. My assumption, she's done as Wonder Woman, and honestly, it's the best. If you're going to start a new universe, don't bring back people, just move them on, or you do with Jason Momoa, where you put him in a whole different role. Now, my thoughts on all this, I think that these movies have the potential to do major damage in a good way at the box office. Batman Brave and the Bold, that is Batman has been proven in box office. That's going to be successful no matter what. Wonder Woman, I'm not sure how they like the question I have is like, what are you going to do with Wonder Woman that's so different? Wonder Woman 1 for me is one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen in my life. And a lot of people forget that Wonder Woman did crazy at box office, and a lot of people loved and adored that movie. Wonder Woman 1984 was really bad, and I will admit that the movie was complete trash. But like, we're not going to undermine Gal Gadot. Like, her as Wonder Woman, bro, was actually really good. And so I wonder how they're going to do all that. I wonder what storyline they're going to go with and how they're going to show the character, to do what Gal Gadot did. Because, like, she did a lot of stuff as the character. And so I would love, though, a more violent iteration of Wonder Woman. So I want her to be a complete savage. And yes, she was a savage when she did her movie, but I want a little more savage, pushing the edge a little bit more to where she's darn near a murderer. You know what I mean? So I would love to see like a more aggressive version of Wonder Woman's, but we'll have to see what happens. Now, in regards to Booster Gold, I'm not the biggest fan of Booster Gold. One of my old, or not old friends, but like one of my friends that does content, I was on a show and he brought up one of the um Booster Gold comics to read, and I just couldn't really get into it, to be honest, because he's just corny to me. He's not a character that I really like it. But I have some friends that do like him. It was just never my guy. I always thought his costume sucked. I always thought he was corny. You know what I mean? And I also feel the same thing with Paradise Lost. I don't want to see a freaking side character pre-hero movie. I just don't want to see that at all. You know what I mean? I want to see heroes in full force, like we were going to see Hal Jordan and John Stewart in Lanterns, right? They're not doing a prequel before Hal Jordan. No, we're getting the characters, and that's energy I want to see, man. I'm so sick of these friggin' side characters, and this is before this. I don't care. That's why a show like Krypton didn't work, bro. You know what I mean? Because nobody wants to watch freaking pre Wonder Woman, bro. No one cares about that. You know what I mean? So please chalk that Paradise Lost project and go to something else, man. Let's read some comments here. Let's see. I still think they tie together the Batman. It's going to be a surprise. Him and Reeves are close, and Superman and Batman are exact. Yeah, man. There's a lot of good. I've seen a lot of good like comparisons that compare them two together. And honestly, right at this point, James Gunn has denied Robert Pattinson's Batman, shown him so much that if I'll say this, if Robert Pattinson is the Batman, I would never believe a word this man says anymore because he's denied Robert Pattinson being Batman multiple times. So if he comes out here and tells that Pattinson's Batman, I promise you, I will never trust this man ever again in my life. And I am so serious. Like anything he says, I'm just going to think the complete opposite. I'm like, yeah, he's lying. He's wrong. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, now I hope that they don't go ahead and do that because I will be really. I mean, I will be happy because I'm a Pattinson fan. But I wouldn't trust anything he says after that with how they're being presented. If they really want to bring back the DCU, David Cornsweet and Pattinson would break the internet. The hype level would be insane. I agree, bro. And I have so much faith in Robert Pattinson as an actor because he's a proven star that Robert Pattinson would be able to do enough to change and be a more mature Batman. He's already in his late 30s, about to enter his 40s. He's still in his prime. You can get him more husky, more built. I think he'll be a great Batman, and I think he'll be perfect for the DCU and for the world that they're trying to build over there. So I 100% agree, bro. But I just don't know if that's what he wants. As in Matt Reeves, I don't know, and it would be crazy because the way that I see it is like you could still do the Batman trilogy and make that serve as just the origin for Batman. And then when we get to the DCU, we have the Bat family and all that stuff with Robert Pattinson. You can make it make sense. I just don't know if that's the road they're going to go. And the fact that James Gunn has denied it multiple times, that's been the question of like is that what they want to do? But I wouldn't be against it though. And I was one of the four. I am one of the four fronters of Pattinson being in the DCU. But we'll have to see what happens. All right, let's see. I think they need to get rid of having two Batmans. It's too confusing. I don't necessarily think it will be too. I don't necessarily think it will be too confusing. I just think it will cause automatic competition about who's the better Batman. I don't think that's healthy for this because imagine if just imagine if James Gunn said, you know what, like we're gonna let Henry Cavill stay. We're gonna do a third, and we're gonna do a Man of Steel 2, Elseworlds. While we do David Cornsweet Superman, how much discourse would that cause? We are already seeing like discourse over Zack Snyder Superman versus James Gunn Superman, and we haven't even seen Henry Cavill since Black Adam. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just that's not productive to me personally. So, all right. Now, next thing here, James Gunn talked about how the DCU will work. Okay, so let's talk about what James Gunn said. He said it's really more, or he said it is really a lot more. What it is really a lot more to me. Yeah. Okay, so he said that the DCU is really a lot more to me. What the Game of Thrones world is, or what Star Wars is like, because we're building a universe and then picking out tiny pieces of it and telling individual stories from that universe. So just to give a grandiose theme of breaking this down a little more if you don't understand this, right? So what James Gunn is talking about is that they're focusing on universe building, not just building up a story. So instead of a linear interconnected narrative where every project needs to be led to the next big event, James Gunn thinks about the DCU as a fully realized world with its own history, politics, and lore, similar to the rich, expansive worlds of like a Game of Thrones or Star Wars. Now, like think of this also as like a diverse, like having diverse self-contained stories within the universe. So this allows for like a greater variety of tones, genres, and character focus as different creators can explore various aspects of the DCU without being strictly tied to a single overarching storyline. So like for instance, right, a project like a animated creature Commandos, which is like a deep cut lineup of characters, and even a Superman, which is more of a classic approach to a character. They both coexist within the same world, even though the tones are so different. I would argue the MCU did that with interconnection, but whatever. And also, the last thing here is that they are focusing on world detail and faction. So the DCU won't be confined to real world cities, instead featuring iconic locations like Metropolis, Evergreen, Coast City, Gotham, right? Gunn has also talked about the importance of corporate entities like Luther Corp and Wayne like Enterprises, suggesting a more complex interplay of power dynamics between like metahumans, governments, and corporations. So this contrasts with with like a more singular focus on heroes versus villains of that's like often seen in the MCU. So here are my thoughts on this universe building, because I am a massive Game of Thrones and Star Wars fan. So I am a person personally, and this is my opinion. I love everything interconnected, and I love seeing signs of the interconnection. So, me personally, guys, I am not the biggest fan of this, and also because as a massive Game of Thrones fans, as a massive Game of Thrones fan, the Game of Thrones order of releasing and events is a super messy thing, and and if you aren't into it super hard, it's like after we get to the next 4 to 5 projects, it's gonna be really hard to track if you're not super into it. Like I think about Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and even this new show which is about like knights or something, where like we are now getting three random timelines. Yes, it's within the same universe, but it's such a loose connection. The only connection that we have is like, oh, they have white hair, they're a Targaryen. But then like you have to do the research like on your own to figure out where it fits in history. And I'm not sure if the DCU can cook with a universe with the concept like that. And like even with the Star Wars stuff, which I don't understand what you're trying to say, because even like we have the original 9 movies, right? And you can hate the sequels, but they're a part of them, right? Where yes, we got like the back half first, and then we got the first, and then we got the first half second. But like that's still 6 movies or in 9 movies, right? That are lined up within a timeline, and the loose connections that we have is Mandalorians and all of that stuff. So like I am very interested to see how James Gunn is going to play all of this out, because I think what made the MCU so much better than everyone else is that they worked with having connectivity. And the reality is that no universe has really succeeded to have connectivity like the MCU does. And that's what made fans care, because there was such a connection. And there's this idea now to where like having a good universe means that you don't have to do any homework. And in my opinion, if you are a fan of anything, you're going to have to do homework. That's why Netflix shows, right? That's why people go on these Grey's Anatomies, right, binges, because they know that they have to do homework to catch up 20 seasons. And like, what is wrong with having homework to watch something? I mean, no matter what. Like, I think it's hard to build a shared universe where anyone can just jump in and be locked in. A lot of people watched Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War not knowing what the heck was going on, because the movie that they came into was like Black Panther. They didn't know about Civil War. They didn't know about all of these movies, but it made them go back and watch all of them. Like that's the beauty of having homework. So having using Game of Thrones as an example to me is so messy, because the Game of Thrones releases, as much as I love them, and they are messy, and I had to do the homework to understand the timelines of everything. I had to read the books. I had to watch YouTube lore freaking videos day and night. I had to watch George R. Martin, freaking interviews just to learn how his timeline and universe works. And so to think that like you doing it this way isn't going to make fans, have homework. I just don't think that that's true. Fans are still going to have to research and watch certain things to understand how it's working. So that's kind of like what I don't like about this Game of Thrones idea. Yeah, I mean, so I am not sure which direction he's going. Like with the more Game of Thrones, where it's going to release random timelines, or is it Star Wars where it's going to have some order but not all of the order? Because the weak and this is the other weakness with Star Wars, right? Is that like with Star Wars, we have all big events, and now it is what it is 2025, and they're still making projects trying to fill in time that people don't care about. And like, is that also productive, right? I mean, like Star Wars, the Clone Wars came out a long time after Revenge of the Sith, right? And yes, those shows are great, but look at the shows after that. Mando was after Luke Skywalker, no connection to anything. Think about Acolyte. Acolyte was before Anakin Skywalker was born. Random time, you know what I mean? So like Star Wars itself is messy, and because Star Wars has focused on their main six, and because they diversified their content with Star Wars comics and Star Wars books and all this random stuff. Now I have to read a freaking book now to keep track with the movies and shows. Now I have to play a video game to keep. That's homework. That's homework. You know what I mean? Like a lot of Star Wars fans don't know who Star Killer is, bro, because they didn't play the games. But Star Wars is so random with how they do stuff. So that's messy. That is messy. And if the DCU is going that route, I don't think that would be the best route to go. And as I can talk about this because I've read all the books, I've played all the games. I'm telling you, it would be messy if they take the Game of Thrones and Star Wars route. I think like James Gunn needs to take a look at the MCU and tweak, you know, where the MCU failed and where he could make it better. Because I don't think the MCU model is bad. I just think that the DCU has to tweak it to fit their universe. Like if you want to do all these random projects where they come together in the end with no really like story or villain that's connecting everything, why have a connected universe? You know what I mean? Because if you do all these random stories, like, and then there's no big connection, it's going to feel weird. So, but then again, right? James Gunn says quotes where like, we're going to see the same characters from before in the next Superman movie, and then those characters are in like Peacemaker. So yeah, it's just a lot of yapping going on. So yeah, I'm not necessarily sure. So that's my yap. Let's say, just like how there's two Jokers. Yep. Him releasing the movie early on digital before Peacemaker was smart based on stuff that could tie this. Yeah. So yeah, that's my like soliloquy with sorry. That's my soliloquy with James Gunn saying that. I don't like that wording of Star Wars to me. That just because, as I said, Star Wars, the way they did it, to me was super messy. I wasn't really the biggest fan of that. Okay. Now, next thing here is are people actually hating on Superman and watching it on digital? Okay. So I wanted to talk about this. So I want to talk about one of the reasons why people are hating on Superman. So there is a big weird thing going on where there is a comparison, right, to Zack Snyder's Superman and David Cornsweet's Superman. All right, and this has been the biggest thing that's going on for the longest time now. And so a lot of people like Zack Snyder's, Henry Cavill's, because Henry Cavill's Superman was a more serious and a more mature take on Superman, right? And a lot of fans has this desire, right, for Henry Cavill to still return to the role for the excuse me, sorry, for a lot of people were just obsessed with Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse. There's been a restore the Snyderverse movement, all this crap. And so, because a lot of people love Henry Cavill so much, they dislike, James Gunn's lighter, more optimistic Superman interpretation. When we all know that, a lighter, more optimistic Superman is more comic accurate. But just because something is comic accurate doesn't mean it's always better, right? So, but I think James Gunn's Superman is better personally. Now, another thing is, the casting and characterizations. Why some people don't like Superman, right? Some criticize the acting and characterizations of Superman in this movie, finding like that the performances and the character portrayals are very generic and they lack in a lot of quality. So, for example, right, some people think that Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is so forgettable and generic and corny. Others didn't like Ma and Pa Kent. They felt that they were like more of a stereotypical country bumpkins, right? And even, Eve, where they just think she's like a ditzy blonde, and some praise, David Cornsweet's portrayal of Superman and Lex. But like a lot of people weren't the biggest fan of them, and that's just the fact, right? When you're putting out content, people aren't going to like it. It's just the truth. And now some fans have had some concern as well about the digital release too, right? Saying that some fans criticize the studio's decision to release it so soon, viewing it as like a potential undermining of the film's box office potential and the experience of watching the movie in theaters. So some people are like, why the heck did I go see this movie when you're releasing it so freaking so early for real? And so some people have been really pissed off about that. But I want to give my thoughts on kind of the Superman stuff, because people are so extra, and it's kind of annoying. So it's funny how the world works, right? Because now that this movie is on digital, and now that the haters who didn't go to the movies, like imagine not going to see a movie where you could pay like $12 to watch, but you spend $29 to buy the movie. You're paying more and you watch it, and now you hate it. So we have two sides in this James Gunn thing. We have the James Gunn Glazers, right? And now let me tell you what a James Gunn Glazer is. A James Gunn Glazer who is someone who thinks that James Gunn can do no wrong and that they glaze every decision that he makes, okay? And the other side here is the James Gunn haters, where they are either Snyderverse fanboys or they just hate James Gunn's Superman, that every move he makes, they call him a fraud, a liar, a hater. He's divided the fan base, all this stuff. And then we have people in the middle where there's like a fair take, right? So we all know Superman is not a perfect movie, but I also think that the movie is amazing. And there's even people that don't like, James Gunn and him as a person, and they even have admitted that this movie is good because it is a good movie. And like when I go on Twitter, it's annoying when I see dudes pulling freaking iTunes stats to see if a movie's doing bad on app streaming, and I'm like, bro, what about the Amazon Prime sales, and what about all of the other platforms that this movie was released on? But this is what you guys have to understand, right? Dudes only pull stats that push their narrative, right? And so we have also seen this thing where, like, on the glazing side, where people are pulling random Superman stats. So like Superman has more letterbox numbers than Barbie. Like, when have we ever seen that stat be pulled for any movie? I have never seen a Avengers Endgame movie or a Star Wars movie or any DC movie before this have to use a letterbox app to say that, to try to prove that this thing. Or another thing is like, oh my god, the freaking the domestic box office. I have never, in the times of me covering movies, I've been covering movies since 2018. I've never seen a time where the domestic box office has been glazed. From what I know, people only used to care about worldwide box office. And so now we have two sides of just glazing to an undeniable level, and it's annoying. And here is my take, is because everybody wants to be a box office expert and say, oh, the box office is bad, the box office is good. Who freaking cares? At the end of the day, it isn't about whether, look, because at the end of the day, the way that you have to view this is, how does the studio view this? Because the reality is, the goal of all of this stuff, right, is if it is good, that we can get more content, right? And so the way that I think it should be viewed is, if we get more content from it, then it's a win. If it's good, if it's not bad, and we get more content, the studio won. The studio got what they wanted. And so here's the fact. Who cares? We're getting more Superman. That's all we need to know. You can cry all you want, but we're getting like 4 Superman movies, bro. Or movies with Superman in it. So like, you can cry all you want, but it's not stopping the grind that's going on. You know what I mean? So, and that's the part that's on, bro. It's all this crying going on, but like, what is your crying going to do? It's not like, it's not going to stop anything. It's crazy. Snyder is an actual cult. I don't understand how people can't just enjoy a Superman movie for being a Superman movie. I agree. Dude, do you know how long it's been since a superhero movie made me almost cry? This was the most beautiful and heart-touching superhero movie I've ever seen. Yeah, bro, Superman was good, man. Superman was good. And like, and I went with you, obviously. And a couple of my friends shed tears. Great movie. People don't realize, if this Superman movie bombed, we would never see another Superman movie for a very long time. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So yeah, man, people be tripping. Next thing here, let's talk about Mr. Steve and Peggy. So, there's another rumor going around here that Steve and Peggy's house was actually rebuilt on the set of Avengers Doomsday. And so there's been recent rumors and set photo leaks that Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter's house was seen at the end of Avengers Endgame has been revealed for Doomsday. So let me give you everything that we know about this. Okay. Now, location. This house has been reportedly built on the set, and this is being built in the UK. And reports indicate, excuse me, that the rebuilt house looks like just the same one from Endgame, but probably a smaller version with only one side being filmed. And apparently, the filming at this location is reportedly scheduled, right, for this Friday and next Friday from August 22nd and August 29th. Now, this does suggest that the movie may revisit Steve Rogers' storyline and potentially explore the implications of his decisions to live with Peggy Carter in an alternate timeline. And this is according to the direct. And some rumors do talk about the fact that Dr. Doom, right, may be targeting Steve Rogers because his actions led to incursions. And it is important to note here, though, right, that these are rumors and leaked information, and Marvel Studios has not confirmed these details. This is why the heck would Marvel Studios confirm a plot, right, in their movie that they're trying to do? Now, some of my thoughts here is, this would obviously confirm the rumors about Steve coming back in this way. And obviously, Chris Evans is going to deny it, but we all know Steve Rogers is back. Like, we're not crazy here. And I still think that, using him being with Peggy as, a cause to why Dr. Doom is pissed off and going after him, I think it's genius. And if this is true, is going to be insane. I heard a really good point where, a lot of people have been saying, like, if the Russos are directing this, right, and they directed Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, why wouldn't you expect them to feed off of that movie that they did, which is I'm pretty sure the highest grossed movie of all time, but also the highest grossed Marvel Studios movie of all time. So like this does have to be viewed as like, a part 3 to the Infinity War and Endgame, and if the stuff that's been used in the past, years after Endgame hasn't worked, obviously they're going to pull from that and bring Steve Rogers. I mean, does this not make sense to you guys at all? Question I have though: do you guys think Captain America is going to don the shield, or do you think he'll be Nomad? We'd love to hear that. Like, would Captain America have a whole new costume at this point because he, and are we going to learn about the history? You know what I'm saying? Like from Steve Rogers and Peggy, like, have they been going on missions with the government still, or like do they have kids and all that stuff? Like and very interesting stuff. Another cool theory. This is a part of like my little theory that I've been cooking up, but let me just drop this bomb on you. What if the TVA tried to prune Steve Rogers and Peggy, but they just kept beating them up every time? So the TVA was like, you know what? We're just going to leave you guys alone. Would have been crazy to think about. He coming back with the classic suit with the wings on the head and a lighter color. That would be crazy if true. I hope so. I would love to see the OG suit back. All right, now next thing up here, let's talk about Daphne Keene with Percy Jackson, season 3 here. So Daphne Keene joins Percy Jackson and the Olympian season 3 as Artemis. Daphne Keene, if you don't know her, she's known for her roles on Logan and Deadpool Wolverine and The Acolyte. And she has joined the cast of Disney Plus's Percy Jackson and the Olympian season 3 in a recurring role. And if you don't know who Artemis is the Greek goddess of the moon and the hunt. Artemis is described as preferring the freedom of the outdoors to the politics and the formality of Olympus. And she leads a band of immortal hunters who have sworn a vow of maidenhood and loyalty to her. Now, her character is super regal and an honorable fighter. She's capable of facing a lot of crazy challenges and having like little contact with mortals. She is described as being like a bit out of touch with like modern human culture. And this is big, and obviously just to talk about season 2, right? Season 2, which is a adaptation of the Sea of Monsters, that comes out December 10th, 2025. Daphne Keene is loved by Disney, bro. I'm telling you, she keeps getting jobs. She's been in the MCU. She's been in she was in Star Wars, and now she's in the Percy Jackson little show that they got going on. I think Daphne Keene is an amazing actress, and I think that her being Artemis is awesome. And season 3 is ramping up harder. It's crazy that they're already filming, but when you have a show like this, and we're going to see something very similar to this with Harry Potter 2. They're going to do a lot of seasons back to back because the kids are growing so fast. Like if you look at Walker Scobell from season 1 to the photo that they put out of him holding the take thing from season 3, the kid looks older already. So they have to be so fast with how they're filming these back to back to back. So Daphne Keene's amazing. And I can't wait to see her as Artemis. And Percy Jackson and the Olympians is probably my favorite book in the whole entire. It's either that or House Hades. House Hades, if I do. But like Percy Jackson and the Olympians is one of my favorite books out of the bunch. So They have to go hard with this. Like, if you read the books, then you know this is one of the best books of them all. Like, Lightning Thief is great, but this is peak Percy Jackson. And I think this is going to be the best season that they're going to do. So I can't wait to see this, bro. Shout out to Daphne Keene. And I can't wait to see more here. All right. Next topic here, Doctor Doom. We have a lot to talk about with Doctor Doom here. And look, I know, look, for the past like 3 to 4 live streams, we've been going crazy on Doctor Doom content because there's just so much to talk about with Doctor Doom. So let's break this down. Doctor Doom is after people who have caused incursions. This is from Daniel RBK, giving a little more context to who Doctor Doom is after. And we've heard a lot. So let's dig deep into this. So, incursions. Incursions are events where two universes collide, right? Leading to the destruction of one universe, Earth, or both. Now, Doctor Doom's goal here, according to reports, is that Doom believes that the incursions are a existential threat to the multiverse, and he aims to eliminate those responsible for causing them. Now, the potential targets here, right? Based on events in previous MCU installments, several characters could be on Doom's list. One is Steve Rogers, right? As we said, his decision to live in the past with Peggy Carter at the end of Avengers Endgame may have inadvertently caused an incursion, according to some theories. Doctor Strange, right? Another one, his use of dream walking in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and actions related to the No Way Home spell are considered possible triggers for incursions. The Scarlet Witch, her actions while dream walking and other uses of her powers may also be on Doctor Doom's radar. Loki and Sylvie, the main culprits here, right? Their actions in the Loki series, particularly related to the Sacred Timeline, are also believed to have led to incursions. And Monica Rambeau, her involvement in the events of the Marvels, including her possible journey, right, to another Earth, is speculated to as a potential cause of the incursion. Other characters could be the Venom symbiote, could potentially even do that. And think about the Vulture, right? How was the Vulture somehow in Morbius, right, in the Sonyverse? So that could also be talked about as a possible incursion causing events, though that's what kind of less certainty, but it could be a possible thing. And so Doom's motivations here could possibly be, right, to save the freaking multiverse. Dr. Doom may genuinely believe his actions are necessary to save this verse, even if his methods are ruthless and brutal. And if you read the comics, this falls in line with who Doctor Doom is as a character, right? And so let's talk about the potential team ups. It is rumored that Doom might try to gather those who caused incursions onto his team to help him stop further collapses of reality. It is important to remember that these details are based on rumors and reports. And look, this may not be entirely accurate or complete. However, they do suggest a complex and potentially more ambiguous portrayal of Doctor Doom and Avengers Doomsday. Okay. So my thoughts with all this is, I think this is a fire idea that Doctor Doom goes after people that possibly cause incursions. I think it's fun. I think it makes the plot cool. I don't understand why people would hate that. And I don't think a lot of people do. And I also think that, I also love the idea of Doctor Doom knowing the truth. Like, there has to be a second part to this. And I hope the second part is that rumor of Doctor Doom knowing the truth about the MCU, that there is a definitive 616 with the X-Men and the Avengers and stuff, but like that. And I also think that, Doctor Doom's approach has to be different than Thanos' approach, because Thanos let a lot of people slide. Like, Thanos didn't kill Tony Stark. Thanos didn't kill Doctor Strange. He didn't kill Captain America. He didn't kill Wanda. He just knocked them out and then killed the person we had to do was Vision. So Doctor Doom has to take people out, and I think that's going to make him a really menacing and scary character. So I hope that we get to see something like that, instead of like a thing where, Thanos was kind of so cocky that he didn't finish off people. So I want to see something super violent, and super aggressive like that. When it comes to stuff like that. So, but I do wonder how you guys feel about this. Um, 1 second, because I really think that Avengers Doomsday with a plot like this, where Doctor Doom might possibly know the truth about the MCU multiverse, or where he knows the truth about the MCU, but also like the question is, how does Doctor Doom know this? And has Doctor Doom been watching all of this unfold throughout this MCU multiversal saga? How did he get the power, to do this? That's the true question. And some could say, Clea, Dark Dimension. I just posted a video on that today. It could be, another way, but Doctor Doom is a genius, and I think that magic is used, do that. And by the way, the one where Percy was followed by zombies, pretty sure that's the Titan's Curse book. And Percy Jackson. I'm pretty sure, but I can fact check that. Which let me see. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so yeah, it was the Titan's Curse, which is the third book. I'm pretty sure where Percy and his friends are going after by like skeleton warriors or whatever. But yeah, man, I think that I think Doomsday is cooking here. All right, let's read some comments here. Which book? Yeah, I answered that already. Spider-Man, because of that multiverse scene in the end, could be why. But Doctor Strange is the one that calls the spell though, bro, not Spider-Man. If true, that lines up with making the big bad villain somewhat agreeable with not just how they go about things. Facts. I never watched Endgame like we talked about, so apparently he had a point. Yes, bro, you need to watch it. Look, and I advise you all to watch Endgame with that thought of Doctor Doom knowing the truth about the multiverse. How does Doctor Doom tie into Kang? I think that Doctor Doom is going to kill all of the Kangs, and that's how they tie in together. You know, I think it's gonna be super simple. I don't think I don't think they're gonna go crazy. I think bro just gonna kill all the Kangs, and we'll go right into the wild verse of Avengers Doomsday. All right, now last thing here. By the way, this is a fake photo, so don't trip. This is not real. I just want to find like a fake photo that I thought would be fun. So I want to talk about some things here. So there's been rumors about like RDJ voicing and shooting multiple scenes and about beef going on and all of this stuff. I think that we need to slow our roll as fans. I think sometimes as fans, we dip our noses into stuff that doesn't need to be dipped into. Because, and this is why I never tripped when, like, even if it was true, right, that the MCU starts movies without a script, I wouldn't trip because if that's the case, then that's how it probably was even with the MCU during its prime. And we just didn't know a lot of the way that they filmed in the ways that things were going on. And I think that a lot of times we get into these things like, oh, RDJ is doing this and that. This movie's going to be bad. We don't know. Like RDJ could have been this way throughout the whole entire prime of the MCU. We don't know. And because we're getting like a deeper scope into how they're filming, and because they're sharing this stuff now with the MCU, we think that we can just say if a movie is going to be bad or not. We're not going to know if a movie is bad until we see the trailer and until we see the movie in full. One of the things that I hate that us MCU fans do is that we hear one piece of news and then we automatically run to the freaking what's the word? We just run to the offense of this movie's gonna be bad. Like, shut up. Shut the heck up, bro. Like, you don't know if a movie's gonna be bad or not until we see at least a trailer. You know what I'm saying? All we have right now is rumors and 1 to 2 set photos a week. Not even a week. Like 1 to 2 set photos every freaking 2 months. And I think that we do so much time yapping about like RDJ's having beef. Who freaking cares? Honestly, who cares? The Rock and Vin Diesel had beef. Fast 6 was still fire. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta let go of this idea of like we have to be involved. And this is the way I go about it, right? If this stuff isn't plot or character related, I don't care. I mean, like if you guys actually worked a real job and really like spend time in society, you would understand that even the best companies have people that have beef and people take stuff the wrong way. That's the way companies work. Like when you're on a team, things go wrong. You know what I'm saying? And people and people just don't know. The biggest problem people have right now is certain actors acting in an empty green screen room instead of interacting with other people. But the wild thing is that's how they've always done it, bro. They've always done stuff like that. Even during Endgame, there were some scenes where people just filmed by themselves because they had to keep the secrecy of the movie. This is nothing new. And I'm pretty sure Alan said the guy that is playing the guy that's playing Nightcrawler, he ended up talking about that. He even leaked that he's going to fight against Mr. Fantastic, which I'm excited to see because I'm a big Nightcrawler fan. But like, why? But who cares? We shouldn't care about whether if he interacted with someone or not. We should care about how the movie looks in the end. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the issue. People like I don't have a film degree. I can't tell you how that's going to work because I don't work in movies. I just cover them. So when it comes to plot and story, I can have run talk. When it comes to how a universe is built, I can talk because I've read the books and I've seen all of the stuff. But when it comes to stuff like this, bro, like I'm not gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like people are commenting on stuff that they don't know about. You don't know how many actors and characters have been in scenes and films together, and they're only in a green screen room. You don't know that. So don't go and yap about something that you don't know about. That's so annoying, bro. And people love thinking that people love thinking that they are so smart. If you look like the person that I would want to ask if this is a good thing is Robert Meyer Burnett, because he works on movies. Robert Meyer Burnett, quick question for you, bro. If you ever come across my Piddly show, is that a bad thing that, or has it happened before in past MCU movies where an actor has filmed in a green screen room by themselves? You know what? I have AI. I can search that up right now. Let's see. Has there been a time in a MCU movie where a actor has filmed by themselves in a green screen room, and in the movie they are with other people? Now let's see if I'm wrong here. So here we go. Look, here we go. We have all the proof right here. It says this. Yes, this has frequently happened in the MCU, especially in movies with large ensemble cast and extensive visual effects. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the Avengers Endgame final battle. In the climactic final battle of Avengers Endgame, not every actor was physically present at the same time to film with their co-stars. In scenes like the gathering of the female heroes, other actors stood in for those who weren't available, and the main actors were, hear this, digitally composited into the scene later. Characters created entirely through VFX. Many characters like Rocket the Raccoon and Groot and Guardians of the Galaxy and Thanos in the Avengers movies were brought to life through motion capture and digital animations, with actors like Sean Gunn and Josh Brolin performing their roles in green screen suits. These actors, hear this, often performed alone on set, interacting with markers or other stand-ins to simulate their characters' movements and interactions with the surrounding environment. Elizabeth Olsen, the Scarlet Witch, given the highly visual nature of Wanda's powers, Elizabeth Olsen, who plays the Scarlet Witch, spends a significant amount of time acting in front of a green screen to capture the effects needed for her spell casting and other actions. Why this happens? Scheduling conflicts with the massive cast like the Avengers movies. It's often logistically impossible to have all of the actors on set together for every scene. Visual effects and CGI. Many scenes in the MCU rely heavily on visual effects, requiring actors to interact with elements that will be added in post production, often in front of a green screen. Third, character betrayal. Characters with unique physical attributes or powers like Thanos or Nightcrawler may need solo green screen filming to achieve. Stop. Sorry, my cat is tripping. To achieve the desired visual effects and cost and efficiency. Utilizing green screen and separate filming can sometimes be a more efficient way to produce complex scenes or accommodate challenging schedules. So there you have it right there. Hold on, let me just let my cat out. Hold on. So there you have it. I just gave you a valid point on why this happened multiple times before with Thanos, with Scarlet Witch. So people are tripping over something that we've seen done before. So that means that in Avengers Infinity War, which is arguably the greatest MCU movie of all time, that happened. So fans, I'm going to say this to you in the most loving and endearing way because I love you all. Shut the frick up. You don't know what the heck you are talking about. You don't. So stop yapping. Stop yapping. All these creators, guys, that go on these ledges and oh my god, the movie's gonna be bad. That close film by himself. You don't know how this works. I just told you how it works. So yeah, that's my soliloquy for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, man. As I said, I'm gonna catch Peacemaker tonight. I hope that you guys catch it as well. I'm gonna read a couple chats before I get out of here. The whole movie is going to be leaked for a drop. So yeah, that's how every film is at this point. Remember when Mark Ruffalo leaked the entire plot interview? Yes, he did. By the way, bro, Marvel Studios has found a way to dodge a lot of people, bro. Because lately they've been dodging mad dudes. I think my only concern is how do you give all these characters into having enough screen time without leaving certain characters out that other characters might care for? So let me put you on this thinking. And this is the beauty of the multiverse, right? The beauty of the multiverse is that when you have multiversal characters, they don't always have to be serving so hard into a plot. They can be cameos. So many people trash Deadpool and Wolverine for having cameos. There's nothing wrong with having multiversal cameos. Because that's the point of having a darn multiversal movie. Do you really think all these 6 to 7 to 8 characters are going to get equal screen time in a below 2-hour movie? No. No, they're not, bro. It's common freaking sense. But people always want to freaking cry, bro. People always want to say, "Oh my gosh, this is a cameo." Who cares? You could argue that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming to Spider-Man's a cameo. You could argue that, and that's one of the most loved movies of all time. But here's what happens: people listen to what other people say, and they don't come up with thoughts of their own because they think they feel dumb. And look, you don't feel dumb for liking what Marvel Studios does. People will come on here and say, "Oh my god, I have this different take and different thought, so it makes me smarter than everybody." It doesn't make you smarter for thinking the opposite. You're just trying to go against the grain to clip farm views. So let me tell you, it's okay to like cameos. It's okay to like cameos. And some of these actors and roles are going to be cameos, and I'm going to enjoy every second of them. I'm going to love it. Doctor Strange and the freaking multiverse of madness. The movie has a lot of flaws. I love the cameos. Come on now. Where was Tom Cruise Iron Man though? I wanted that, but I love the cameos. So as long as the characters serve the plot and story, I don't care. I don't care because there's important characters on each team that need their part, and if you give them that, it'll work out. Don't leak Peacemaker. Won't be able to see it till tomorrow. Yeah, I'm not gonna leak it, bro. I promise. I'm not gonna leak it. So. All right. I'm going to end this show here tonight, man. I didn't mean to crash out, but it does make me mad when people love acting like they know so much, right? And it's like, bro, come on. I hope you guys have a great night. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We dug deep tonight, and we're going to talk about Peacemaker next week, and we do have a Spider-Man ranking episode next week. So have a great day, stay crispy, and peace out.